Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast hosted by Concept 3D. On this podcast, we discuss higher ed marketing topics around creating and capturing demand. Before we jump in, we do have a quick message from our sponsors at Concept 3D. Concept 3D's purpose is to foster connections through technology, elevating the way businesses connect with their community by leveraging the power of events and location. If your school needs an updated interactive map, virtual tour, or centralized events calendar, please reach out to concept3d.com. Thank you. All right, so let me introduce myself. My name is Shiro Hatori, and I will be your host today. And today, I'm very, very excited to introduce our guest speaker. He is the Director of Digital Strategy in the Division of Professional Studies at UMBC. He's leading a team working across departments and different units and piloting many new technologies and strategies. Please welcome Elliot Talbert Goldstein.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I love to open up with this question on every episode. What do you love about higher ed, Elliot?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question, put your people on the spot. But I really enjoy it. I think there's a lot of great opportunities, no matter what school, college, or university you're working at, to give people the resources that they need, whether it's they're taking degrees because it's the most interesting thing to them, or they're looking for career advancement, or they're trying to solve a problem in their field, their industry, or their community. And so there's always a great challenge in making sure you're delivering those effectively, and you get to connect with a lot of really smart people, both students and faculty and other administrators and marketers. So bringing all those people together to really deliver education and higher education is just really exciting for me.
That's fantastic. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background, roles, responsibilities?
Sure. So I work in, like we mentioned, the Division of Professional Studies, which is kind of a unique, cutting-edge division in the university, which is tasked with creating new programs and new ideas that are at the forefront of higher education, but also connecting with the community, with lifelong learners, and creating extension programs for non-traditional, professional graduate, transfer students. And so those programs are rolled out in order to serve a specific need with help from the state and from other programs in the university. And then based on those, what we learn that can inform other program development, updates to majors and minors and other degrees. And we do the same thing in the marketing team as well, because these are new programs and just new concepts that the community and the country and the world may not be familiar with. We need to promote them. It's not your typical major or minor, so people don't always know to look here for them. So in marketing, we have to come up with new ideas and really be cutting edge in order to promote them, promote all this great work that our colleagues are doing in order to draw students. And so based on those marketing skills, just like what our programs do, we bring that back to our communications teams at the rest of the university to help them improve their skills and tap into some of the knowledge that we've created.
It's amazing. I know you sort of already answered this question I'm about to ask around what makes UMBC and your division specifically unique. Maybe what would help for me to understand is how would your division at another school look like? What makes it unique? If you've seen divisions like yours, or maybe they don't really exist in the same manner.
Sure. So a lot of the kind of analogous departments at other universities are the extension schools or the online programs. Professional and adult education is also kind of an area. And we have a lot of similarities. We want to make sure that we're delivering really crucial programs to career changers, people looking for specific fields in advancement, and new kind of I would say contemporary and modern degrees and programs that aren't people aren't familiar with, or they may not know that they need or may be useful in their field. So if you think about a sociology degree, sociology is, a century and a half old, 2 centuries old or something. So those degrees have been around for a while. But what about subsequent things? What else do people need? What's new? So programs of ours like community leadership, entrepreneurship, and like technical management, they all tap into ideas from organizational behavior, learning, and technology, stuff that has been evolving over the years in order to give people really critical skills that they can kind of learn in the classroom or online and then bring into work the next day. And while I think our colleagues are doing that, we also have a lot of this community focus and a really regional focus, just being near DC and Baltimore, where we have a lot of federal agencies. So we're really connected with them in designing programs for the needs of the community along with those companies. And I'm not sure that everybody can say that. So it's really cool. Things in Baltimore and DC and stuff like that.
That's amazing. So it looks like you're very involved with the communities, what I'm hearing, and that's one unique identifier about UMBC and your division. And if I remember correctly, the majority focus isn't online, right, with your division?
That's right. Most of ours are in-person or hybrid classes. We do have some online programs, and so it just depends on what you're looking for. But the community aspect, and that that also is networking. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to go to every football. We don't have a football game, but every basketball game. But you will connect with your classmates, and they probably work in a field similar to you, or are looking for jobs similar to yours, or you might meet people who have jobs that you're looking for. So it's a great opportunity to connect with them in person and face to face.
It's amazing. And I just wanted to ask a very level-setting question here. What are non-traditional students and professional graduate students, and why are they an important demographic?
Sure. So it's funny because the term non-traditional is even starting to become out of date, because so many students are not just the 4-year college degree, right? So many young people do not just graduate from high school, go to college for 4 years, graduate, and get a job. They may take a gap year. They may go to community college nearby to save money and stay close to home. They may find better programs, or maybe somewhat more indecisive about what they want to do. They may be interested in focusing on community. They may be returning students. So maybe you started a degree a few years ago and you need to come back. So the number of what they used to call non-traditional compared to traditional students, that ratio has changed quite a lot. And then there's a lot of lifelong, what they call lifelong learners sometimes, but also people who want to change or adjust their career. There's a lot of stuff going on, and people may need additional credentials. So those professional graduate students, that's a big demographic. People who have entered a field 5-10 years and realize they either need an advanced degree or they want to change careers. And so we've built programs meant to help them with that career change process, both from transitioning from being a working professional to being a working professional and student, and then what you do with that degree afterwards. How do you apply that to your career?
That's amazing. And so maybe I'm someone who graduated 10 years ago, and I got a degree in arts and science, and I have a family now, but I want to go back to school. That would categorize me more as a lifelong learner or professional graduate student. Yeah.
And lifelong learners is a term they use for people that want to come just take classes for the rest of their lives. But now it means so much more. Your degree, the micro credentials you might want to change. A lot of people end up in fields they didn't realize. We can talk about a colleague of mine who was a theater major and ended up in IT. We can talk about people who started in technical fields but decided they wanted to get into more management or community-based work. And they can use those skills that they've learned in all those places, but they may need some additional upskilling in order to understand how they do it and make the connections that can help them figure out how to really apply it.
It's interesting. And so even within your division and the students who are part of it, I'm hearing there's a couple different segments or groups of people. How do you go about marketing to students in your division?
Yeah, so we really take a very personalized approach. We know that everybody we talk to is going to look very different from another person. So we're as personalized as possible. It takes a lot of extra work, but the kind of user first, the audience first perspective is really the most important thing. It definitely means some extra hours, but the ability to make sure that we're giving you the information you need. So somebody who's looking at a degree in engineering management is going to look very different from somebody who's looking at a degree in biotechnology, right? They could have some overlap and there are some similar pathways, but we want to make sure that we're not sending you information you don't need. Prospective undergraduate students who are returning to finish their master's or transferring from a community college, they have a different set of requirements. Applying to grad school is very different from applying to undergrad or transferring to undergrad. So we need to make sure we provide a lot of that information and give it to you in an easy to understand format. Otherwise, it can be really overwhelming and you can just get lost. And you may not, simply because it wasn't communicated well, you may just never come back to study because it was too confusing or too difficult. So we really need to personalize it, get people to get in touch with us so that they can start talking about how to approach this because it is complicated, but we want to make it as easy as possible.
Definitely. And I know in our intro conversation, you mentioned sort of like your big 3 steps you take when you're, looking at a generic audience or very specific as well. Do you want to share that with our audience as well?
Sure. So based on some great research from our colleagues, we really try and approach three ways to approach our prospective students. We want to capture the attention of undecided students. They could be undecided about going back to university, or they could be undecided about UMBC. But we want to make sure that you're looking at us and you're looking at programs that are relevant for your needs. I guess if you've started to look for a degree, then there might be something that's there for you, and you may not be aware of it. Again, a lot of people just think, oh, I have to go back and do a major, or, oh, I need to, go take the standardized exams, or, oh, my grades weren't great before. Well, come talk to us. We want to get your attention so that we can talk to you about what those things mean and what might be the right path for you. Even if it's not with us, you can get a lot of great information. The faculty and administrative staff can all help you. The second thing that we want to do is make your transition as easy as possible. And like I said before, that's both the transition to UMBC as a student or a working student and the transition out of UMBC into your career or whatever your next steps are. So that means making sure the class schedules make sense to you, making sure that your forms and documentation and financials are all in place, and then when you're done, connecting you with the people that you need and making sure that you can put your new degree on your LinkedIn profile and describe what you did in your resume. And then the last thing is we need to prove that this is all real, so we use social proof and student stories. Faculty stories also, but the student stories really go above and beyond. We have so many people from all walks of life, so we're always just putting out there the quotes, the podcasts, the videos. Just if you're curious about what you can do in higher education as a student, whether at UMBC or somewhere else, I really recommend our content. It just goes everything from young people who just graduated from college to people who are out of school for a long time to people who knew exactly what they wanted and exactly what degree was going to get them there and found us and knew that was the right path. So whether you're a little unsure or you're very, very secure in your decision,
right,
this material can really push you. The proof of that is there.
Right. I think my opinion is that the steps 2 and 3 are very, aligned with your demographic of non-traditional students and professional graduate students because, they're making the transition easy. Like I don't assume sometimes they have families or, their life might be a little more complicated compared to a traditional student right out of high school. Right. So I feel like that's very important, very specific to your audience and obviously social proof and showing value. That's if you're an adult, you need outcomes, right? You're not doing it just for social reasons or for you have a mission that you want to accomplish when you come into this. So I feel like those are really, really specific and important to to your division and what you're doing at UMBC.
Yeah. I mean, just the example of students who may be caregivers, whether you're an undergrad or grad student. You might need to take care of somebody in your family or extended family, and the traditional, 4 classes per semester or whatever, 12 credits, 15 credits just isn't going to fly. You might have a job in addition to being a caregiver.
Right.
And we have, that is so common, and it's just not something that comes, you don't see people putting that on the front page of their website very often.
Right.
But at UMBC, we have resources to help deal with that. And, we know that there are people that are coming here in that situation and so many others. And we want to make sure that you can deal with this change, and that at the end of it, you're going to be able to take advantage of the degree to help make your life even better, whether it's changing to a better job that can help you afford things more easily, or just a job that's more flexible in order to give you that space.
Love it. And I know you mentioned you started a podcast as well. I'm just curious, obviously we're recording a podcast right now. Like, what made you want to start it, and, how's that been going for you? Yeah.
So for years we've been doing YouTube videos, and we have just really great explanations and talks and bullet points and data on our programs. But we realized we wanted a longer format to explain this stuff. It is really hard to explain a college degree and a college career, graduate or undergraduate. It's really hard to do in a 2-minute YouTube video. So
Right.
we really wanted to work in with the podcast format, which is, obviously huge, to let people listen. And you don't have to be pursuing a degree to listen to this. We have great interviews with professionals in every field, biotech, managers, community member, like nonprofit organizations, just a zillion things that are really interesting. And we've been able to really make sure, if you're interested in one of these topics or you want to know more about what your career could look like, it's there. But if you like hearing about just what do professionals do in other fields, that's a great place to go. And we have interviews with professionals in the field that are just affiliated with UMBC because they work with our programs. We have interviews with faculty, and we have, of course, interviews with students. So there's a lot of diversity there, and it's been a lot of fun. And we'll be giving a talk about that soon, connecting that to connecting the podcast both to how we engage with prospective students through the podcast, but also how we bring all these people together to talk about the amazing work that they do. It's not always going to make it in the newspaper. It's not always going to make it in the UMBC news. So we want to give them an opportunity to talk about it. And it's been really cool. There's a lot of really, really cool interviews.
That's amazing. And, of all these 3 steps, like, do all the responsibilities fall in the hands of your team, or are you working collaboratively with admissions and advisors and faculty as well?
Oh, it's total, so many stakeholders,
Right.
Which program has, a new faculty member that's got something to say, which program has a student that just, totally excelled, or which program has a student that just is a great example of somebody that fits in at UMBC, whether they were here just because they wanted a, quick promotion, or they were, they really took advantage of everything we had to offer, and they're, one of those people we would put on a billboard. No matter what you've done here, if you've got a story to tell, we want to hear about it. And yeah, I mean, people just say, "Oh, that person was great." I got an email from a colleague just about something work related, and I saw in her email signature she was one of our former students. We put her on the podcast, invited her into the podcast. Right? We didn't even know she was there. She graduated a few years ago. We didn't make the connection, but now we can talk about. We can have her talk about what she did and why she decided on that program. So yeah, it's always like kind of, I wouldn't say all hands on deck, but it's a real team effort from everybody. Collegial is the way to put it, right? Everybody's thinking about this, like, okay,
Right.
how can we tell that story now?
It's amazing. So you're aligning on the vocabulary and the steps, the strategy together across the different units and departments, and it's helping you sort of come together collegial in overall strategy.
Absolutely.
Love it. So let's talk results. I love talking results. I know you mentioned you've seen some growth. I think you outlined 20% growth year over year. I don't know the specific dates, but can you tell us a little bit more about like how you got there? I know all the things you just talked about were a part of it, but I think it's amazing that you've seen these results. And so in a world right now where enrollment cliffs and all these conversations are going on, so I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this was roughly from 2017 to 2019, where we had a big growth in the number of programs. And the numbers, like you said, that was around that time, and we have many more programs now, so they look very different. But at the time, we had some growth in the number of programs we had, and we wanted to make sure that we were taking advantage of all the opportunities that were available to us when kind of expanding the website and expanding the marketing opportunities, marketing channels and messages. So we took a look at some of our like advertising, like just on Google, to make sure that every keyword met a certain threshold. We wanted to make sure that the website was optimized for the keywords that people were searching for. So if we take our cybersecurity degree, not every search on Google about cybersecurity is going to be somebody who's looking for a master's degree in cybersecurity, right? They might be concerned about the news. They might be thinking about international relations. They might be thinking about a particular regulation or their own home security. So what we really had to do is prune all those words to make sure anytime somebody, our information came up, we weren't spending money on an ad that was going to appear for somebody that wasn't relevant. And that just helped really focus our advertising on people that were really interested in our degrees. Another thing we did is really structure all of our content, videos, blog. We didn't have a podcast at the time, but this fed into that later. But our blog and our videos and our social media posts, we wanted to make sure that every single one supported those three goals we talked about earlier: getting attention, students, making their transition easier, and giving social proof. Every single thing we had to create had to meet that, and if it didn't, then why were we making it? And then once people came across our content and they came to our website, and that could be through, and emails included. So email, blog, social, video. People might read 10 emails before they even, the second time they visit your website, or they might see 10 social posts. At one point, I think it was 48 different touch points before they actually, inquire with you, right? So I need to make sure, right. So I need to make sure that, we're out there and everything kind of drives you to take an action. So once you get to the website, we made it as easy as possible for you to raise your hand, to fill out a form and say, hey, I think I'm interested. And we're not going to bombard you with information, but we will follow up with you and we'll provide you with content that you may not have seen yet. You might have been on our YouTube, but you may not have seen our Instagram. You might have heard about us from a friend and kind of now you visited the website, but our emails will show you the YouTube videos. Maybe you started that YouTube video and you didn't finish it, and we send you that email, now you're reminded. So once you've been on there, and then we make it as easy as possible for you to reply, make sure that our staff are reaching out. So the idea was to push people to really kind of let us know that they might be interested so that we can talk to you about how to make this, fit, how to make this work for you. And that was very effective. It really, all the programs we had saw a great bump in the number of inquiries and the number of students that were attending. And we had a nice run. And that set the stage for, having all that in place, all those processes, that set the stage for 2020 when things went awry. And right. We really had to rethink what we were doing. But we had this great foundation, and that was huge. And now we're going back and looking at the last 3 years to see what was effective and what wasn't, and what's changed, and what we need to do to keep that growth going.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Always love talking numbers and results, so that's huge. I'm wondering, just super high level question, where do you think the trend of the student demographic you're currently marketing to, which is the non-traditional and professional graduate student, plus some other segments as well that are included in there, but where do you think that it's going directionally? Is this going to be an increasing student demographic in the future? Like, I know I've heard a lot of, obviously a lot of students dropped out during COVID and a lot of, like you said, a lot of lifelong learners are coming back to school. Like, where do you think the direction is going?
Yeah, so there's like two things that we talk about. One is like we talked about, non-traditional, whatever that means at this point. There's going to be a lot of differences in what students are looking for. What we know they'll be looking for is a return on their investment. What are they going to get out of this degree? If they've made any decision, like you mentioned, to drop out or take a break for some amount of time, what's going to bring them back? If they are affected by what is currently, a bit of an economic downturn, what is there a degree that's going to help them refocus? And then there's another big shift in that's how people look for degrees. So right now we're already at like 20 or 25% of our even graduate students are now Gen Z. So Gen Z has graduated college in many cases.
Crazy to think of.
Yeah, and they're already in grad school. So we need to make sure that we're addressing their needs, both in terms of the degrees, but also in terms of how they're shopping for them. Right? They're used to Amazon, and millennials are too. So if millennials are coming back for a degree, I think millennials are currently about 60% of the market. They may be looking at grad school now, having been born, 40 years ago, and between 40 and 25 years ago, 27, 28 probably. They are thinking about, okay, well, if I'm going to go to school, go back to school for graduate degrees or turn to a bachelor's, what am I going to get out of it? And now millennials are also used to shopping this way. So we need to make sure we're giving them and all of these people the information that they need in order to make an informed decision. So it's both that kind of, okay, what is the demographic of the modern student? What are the things that they're looking for in the degree? And how are they looking for it? Are they shopping on TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat? Are they getting information from colleagues? Are they looking at their email at all? Do you want text messages? You ask one person, do you want to get text messages from somebody trying to recruit you? No. You ask another person? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I got to remember all the deadlines. So all that stuff kind of factors into how do we create these degrees, and then how do we make sure people, find them.
Got it. Thank you. That's a great share. Well, it was so awesome to have you on today. Thank you so much for all your insight and all your knowledge sharing and number sharing as well. I was wondering where our listeners could connect with you. And I know you said you have a speaking engagement coming up as well, if you'd like to share that as well.
Sure. So in April, I'll be at the UPSIA conference, which stands for it's a professional continuing and extended education conference. If you're in higher ed, if you're in technology or nonprofits, I'll be at the Nonprofit Technology Conference in Denver next month, also, or April. Both of those coming up. And you can also find me on LinkedIn or just hanging around DC and Baltimore.
That's awesome. Thank you so much again, and thanks for our listeners. And of course, if you need an interactive map, event solution, virtual tour, or events calendar, please reach out to concept3d.com. Thank you so much, Elliot. It was so great to have you on.
Thanks, Shiro.